once you come to the conclusion that the data you got was incorrect, or the people who gave you the information wasn't trustworthy, and or a combination of the above, are you willing to change your mind? Well, hello everyone. Bit of an impromptu video. My Model 3 is in for repair with a rear knuckle assembly, and so I decided to kill some time and come over to Yorkdale and drive a new Model Y Performance, as I got an email that this model had just landed. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit, just randomly, about some stuff. Of course, some impressions of the car. This is my first time driving the new Model Y Performance. Actually, now that I think about it, I've only driven the Model 3 Performance Legacy. I've actually never even driven the Model 3 Performance, the modern one, the Highlander, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I thought I'd take this opportunity since I have the time. So we're gonna head out here from Yorkdale, and hopefully the audio is okay, and hopefully the video is okay. Now, just a note about the steering, or the rear knuckle on my car. So I thought this was really interesting. So I'm getting the repair done, and these are all OE parts and stuff. The part is $540, because I was talking to a buddy of mine out in Calgary who is a Volkswagen guy, like you know, he's from my old days, and very good, very old friend of mine. And him and I were joking about it. I'm like, dude, this part was $540, and immediately he was like, wow, that's cheap, because he comes from, you know, of course, Audi and Volkswagen parts pricing. So out of curiosity, I decided to check it out. Well, the range of pricing for these parts from these manufacturers for all of Yorkdale Road. For all of them. So I'm going to see if I can quieten down the nav. 1 second here. Got to put my old man glasses on here. So I did a price comparison, and Rock showed up all the images and the part numbers and all these parts for the similar type of assembly. Now, there may be some discrepancy here, like there may be a wheel bearing built into one of them or two. I didn't look that far, but I mean, just the fact that you have to replace that part of it's making noise, because this thing, it's so crazy. Anyway, so the price range for all of them, like each one had the same price range of $1,100 to $1,500. Now, from a repair standpoint, that's double or triple the parts cost. And I held the actual machined part in my hand, the Tesla part, cast aluminum. There's like, I have to remember, I'll put it up on screen here, 5 or 6 different rubber connection points. From what I saw, and I'd have to re-verify this, it also had more connection points than the BMW, Mercedes, and the Audi assemblies. And so therefore the complexity is greater. The parts count is a little bit greater, but they've probably done that in order to homogenize the assembly in that area, right? That's very typical of Tesla. So that's super impressive to me. Do I love spending, you know, $1,000 on my car to repair it? Of course not. But my car has 188,000 kilometers on it, and I'm doing crazy driving right now. And the problem is right now is the noise it's making. It makes this really loud creaking noise. But, you know, I don't feel bad about spending the money, because first of all, the car's in incredible shape. It drives beautifully, and the rubber bushings make noise. I mean, the car's got 188,000 K. I'll put that in miles down in the text here. But that's really impressive to me, you know, and that shows pretty good longevity, because it seems to me that the part that was in there was an original part, although, you know, I don't really have any way of knowing that, but that's what I gather. At any rate, so I wanted to come out and drive the Model Y Performance. You know, I goosed it a little bit just coming out of the parking lot there. It's obviously absurdly powerful. There's a test drive coming up. I don't know if it's going to get posted before or after this video, but I did a great test drive with my friend and customer Marty Wagman, and we test drove a Model Y, a 2026 Model Y long range all-wheel drive, and I think he really liked it. But stay tuned for that video if it hasn't come out yet. I think that's going to be a good one. It's going to be pretty long, because I did a test drive component with him, and then we did a dinner after, and I filmed both of them with like a 2-camera angle thing, which is actually the reason for the delay for release. I've edited lots of videos, but I haven't quite edited a video in this context. What had happened was I was planning on editing with some new AI tools, like, you know, Descript and like CapCut, and what was the other one? Premiere Pro, and there was another one. Let me focus on this. Flat, very flat through the corner. I'm in sport mode, so the suspension's stiffer, but like seems pretty compliant. Yeah, this thing's wild. This thing's so much fun. I don't know if I'd ever buy a performance model. You know, like I've been a car guy my whole life. Sorry, I should probably finish that thought. The video editing software. So in my mind, I kind of filmed it like I was going to edit it with AI. The problem is I ran into some issues, mainly upload speeds, to be honest. So I couldn't really, like, I had 128 gigabytes of video I should just put it in FSD mode. Had 128 gigabytes of data, and I couldn't upload it fast enough to Descript for it to analyze all the files and stuff like that. So I had to go back to manual editing, which is probably going to be what this video is too. Which is disappointing because I was hoping it would automate a lot of the processes, switch between camera angles and stuff, and it might, but I just don't know how to do it yet, and I can't wait, so I've been manually editing the video. So again, all that to say, there's a great video coming out with Marty, and further to that, I'm actually going to do this a lot more. I'm going to have to refine that process so my editing takes a lot less time. But my goal here is just to be able to take people out who have never experienced a Tesla and or recently Tesla FSD, and go out and coach them as a salesperson, like just to, take some of the load off Tesla themselves, work toward the mission, things like that, something I'm deeply passionate about. And I have a big network of people I can do this with, so you expect more videos on that in that vein if I can figure out an efficient way to film them. So right now I'm in FSD, I'm on Highway 401 coming up on Keel Street. I drive FSD every single day, except I have hardware 3 in my car. And of course, this is a hardware 4 car. And I've been in a few hardware 4 cars already, and the differences are fairly noticeable in terms of the overall behavior of the car. The car's a lot smoother, or rather, let me rephrase, the outputs are a lot smoother. I think they're outputting at 2 hertz, twice a second, for both models as far as I understand. Maybe it's different for both, I have to look into that. But it's just very smooth, very predictable, very comfortable, as you'd expect from a modern FSD. Right now we're on V14 point something. Let's see if I can actually see what version we're on. V14.2.2.5. V14.2.2.5. So that's pretty good. I'm not sure if that's the most current one. This car just came in. I thought it was going to have summer tires on it, but it's got all seasons on it, which is cool. I think it's got 21s on it. What's going on over here? No. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I don't know about impressions, what to tell you. The car is the best-selling car in the world, pretty much. Last 3 years in a row. We'll see if it holds that crown for this year. While we're here, I might as well talk about some other things. So one of the things that I've found challenging over the last, probably year or so, is belief structures in human beings. I feel actually, frankly, quite a little bit lonely. And the reason I feel lonely is because I don't really have anybody to talk to. And to be frank, that's not an indictment on my friends. I have a lot of amazing friends, but my friends are busy. They have children, they have jobs, they have responsibilities. And what I want to do is go really deep, kind of into my own belief systems and challenge things that I thought. Like, the way I think about this is, and a lot of this comes from following Elon's companies, is to tackle and challenge those belief systems. So let me give you an example, because the thing is, I don't know if I'm good at it, and I don't think I'm good at it because I haven't had enough practice at it. I'm trying my best, but the kinds of conversations I want to have with people don't seem to be willing to have. So take, for example, here's how I think about it largely as a structure. So one, some of the lessons to be learned are, I think that it's probably a more noble, what do you call it? Like a noble endeavor to try to be, instead of trying to be right, try to be less wrong over time. I think that's really valuable. And if you approach it from that perspective, it changes the way you think about a problem or a situation. Now, when it comes to belief systems, this is something that I think is a real Achilles heel for humanity. Like, nobody feels comfortable hearing or understanding that they may be wrong, that what they think might not be correct, that the information that was given to them was false and they were tricked by it. This is a very painful experience for humans. But, I think for me, the way I want to look at things, and the thing is, you only have so much bandwidth, right? Like, you have to decide what's important to you. So I'm not saying, like, if you don't care about the pineapple farming, like, don't go deep on it. Like, who cares? But if it's important to you, and instructively, if it informs how you think, how you behave, how you speak to people, what you say to people, your views on something that you hold dear, things that are important in society, that are important to your family, whatever it is, it has to have some measure of import to you in order to be worth the dive, right? To be worth that pain. And how that pain presents itself is, you say, okay, why I believe this about a certain thing. Why do I believe what I believe? Where did I get the information that helped me form this belief? And it could be many sources. It could be one source. It could be like, it could be, over the years you've seen 10, 12 different pundits or interviews or whatever it is. but fundamentally, your views and opinions are based largely and almost exclusively on A, the information that you take in on the topic, and B, how it squares with your personal moral compass. And that's not to say good or bad, because everyone has a slightly differently calibrated moral compass. What is moral to someone is immoral to another, which is a challenge in and of itself. So, but going back to the basics again, where did I get this information? Is the information credible and verifiable? That's the next step. And then are the people or the institutions or the sources that I got the information from, are they credible? Do they have a history of fabricating information? Like, take for example, there's lots of moon deniers. I'm not quite in that camp, but NASA has a history of recoloring photographs that they show to the public. Why do they do that? Why do they put an orange tinge or a red tinge on Mars when Mars is actually kind of gray-blue? So there's things like that. Like, if you have a history of manipulation or distrustful behavior, then I think that needs to be taken into account when you are formulating the trustworthiness of a source. And so when you get down to that point, you say, okay, well, let's say you've vetted all these different things. You've vetted your opinion on it, how you feel about it, why you feel that way. You've looked at the sources of data. You've either verified or rejected them based on your own analysis. You're fundamentally going to have to come to a point where you go, okay, now that I have all this additional information over this thing that I've decided to dig into deep, to dig deep into my heart to see how I feel about it, does the data support my belief system and feeling on it? Because this feeling thing is really challenging for humans, right? Because how we feel dictates often how we behave, and those that are colder may be able to distance themselves from the emotional side of things, can maybe make a better decision, maybe. And that's not to say like that emotions aren't important in many decisions. I mean, especially when it relates to family and love and all those kinds of things, there are going to be things that are emotionally driven, but I think that it's more pragmatic to try to look at it from both sides, right? Like, look at the implication, not only the emotional side for you, but the other person that may be affected. But I'm getting kind of off topic here. I want to get back to the belief system structure. So ultimately, what I'd really like to do is find people who are willing to debate, who are willing to argue, or are willing to try to flesh out the best ideas, because I really want to try to be less wrong over time. Like, so what I really want to do, what I really want to find are people who are willing to sit down and tackle a particular topic that we are on opposite ends of. There's no shortage of topics in the news that are extremely divisive and extremely controversial. There's no shortage of topics like that. So, pick one. Maybe pick one that's a little bit less contentious for your first go. But what I'd like to do is sit down with somebody, a friend, so hopefully someone I'm close to or I respect, and say, okay, you're on this side of this topic, I'm on this side of this topic. We've got our laptops here. Let's do joint research. Let's try to prove the other person or add supporting data for our own argument. And let's see if we can come to a consensus and see if we can either sway one person or the other. Because the other side of it is that once you come to the conclusion that the data you got was incorrect, or the people who gave you the information wasn't trustworthy, and or a combination of the above, are you willing to change your mind? I think I am. I think I'm willing to change my mind. And I'm human, right? Like, if I get backed into a corner and I'm being really challenged and I feel uncomfortable in arguing my own position, I'm going to probably feel a bit defensive. But there has to be a set of ground rules or an understanding that this is actually the goal that you're trying to get to, is trying to get to an understanding. So I think within that framework, if you can sit down with a friend and do that. So what that looks like essentially is saying, okay, well, my position is X and you've said your position is X. Tell me first, in your own words, why is that position important to you, and why do you hold that position? Why do you hold that belief structure or belief on that topic? And then I will articulate my idea on it and why I see what I do and why I've leaned toward this particular decision or whatever. And vet the data. Like, go deep on one topic to start. Like, just pick one that you have an argument with a friend on. Say, it could be anything from current wars to situations that are happening in the US to Canadian politics, which is not my preference, even though I'm Canadian. I just find it less interesting to be honest. So pick a topic, drill deep, make your opposing arguments, and then share data to support it, right? And there has to be like an understanding, right? It can't just be, okay, well, your data is BS. I don't trust your source, whatever it is. Like, it has to be at some level where if I'm going to use sources, you can use sources too. Let's try to agree on what might be trustworthy, but also add them as data points as import. And again, those data sources have to be vetted for their trustworthiness, right? So I guess I'm just frustrated because I've been trying to kind of engage my friend base in this type of dialogue, and they're just not interested. And I get that it's painful, and I'm actually getting pushback in a way where I'm getting the opposite effect of what I want, right? Like, for example, and let me clarify that. What I want is to gain understanding. What I want is to not only have them understand my position, but I want to understand their position, because what if I'm wrong? Here's what I've actually come across, and it may be my approach. I'm not perfect. I think I'm a good communicator, but I am emotionally driven like other humans, and I can make mistakes. So with a proper framework and a pre-discussion about what the intent is, I think that can be very helpful to that type of thing. So it's just so smooth. Hardware 4 is so smooth. So nice. Can't wait to get a Hardware 4 car. Anyway, so then the reactions I'm getting are sort of pushback. They're like, well, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do that. You're being too pushy. All you do is talk about this or that. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gain deep understanding. I'm not trying to ostracize my friends. I'm trying to bring them along. But at some point, I have to make a decision that if I'm spinning my wheels and not getting traction with certain people, like, I'm not saying I want to give up on my friends. I'm not going to cut my friends off. That's not the case. But where I spend my time disseminating data or discussing things, I'm going to have to change my local circle. I'm going to have to change the people I'm communicating with. Yeah, okay, you can talk on X to people and all that kind of stuff, great. But I need like a face-to-face human connection with somebody that I can really sit down and drill down and say, okay, because it's not just about the belief system, right? It's also part of it is, to me, about proving to myself that I have the flexibility and the intelligence and maturity to be able to change my mind when presented with facts that I believe are true and in opposition to how I feel about something, right? So for me, it's a bit of a validation exercise in my thought process to see if this actually works, but I can't find a single goddamn person to do it with. And again, I want to say again, this is not an indictment of my friends. My friends are, by and large majority of them are hyper intelligent. And it's the reason I'm friends with them. I value intelligence in general. And I really enjoy being in the company of people who are able to think and think critically on top of that. But I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. Maybe I'm talking BS. I don't know. But this is kind of what I want right now. I really want to sit down with somebody and drill down and practice. Like, I believe this. Why do I believe this? Is that reliable? And now that I have new data, do I still hold that belief, or does my belief shift because of new information? So anyway, I kind of wanted to get that off my chest. It's not something I've verbalized publicly. Actually, I just kind of mentioned it to a friend for the first time last night. And it's a bit of a pull and push for me, because I don't feel good about telling my friends this, because I don't want them to feel like it has anything to do with them in particular. Like, it truly is not an indictment on my friends. It's just real life. And the friend that I said this to, I want to give him a shout out to AT. One of the things that he said, which I thought was really impactful, and it's not something I don't know, but he reminded me of something very important. It's that when you are on a journey to discover something, maybe self-improvement or about yourself, you kind of have to find that on your own. You kind of it has to be like, the timing has to be right for you. And I think maybe part of what I'm trying to do is force people down a funnel that they're not ready to do. And so I respect that. I find it frustrating because I'm like, guys, I'm shaking them because it feels time sensitive to me. Because what I'm really talking about is tech, AI, space data centers, brain chips, Neuralink, stuff like that. To me, it seems urgent, but to them, it's not. They have other priorities. And it kind of ties into one of these old things that I remember thinking about. And it says that, every time you meet someone, everybody you meet has a battle you know nothing about. And I try to think about that out often, in fact, every day, because you never know who you're dealing with. You never know what they've been through or gone through or are going through. And that's really important. So to my friends who I've maybe pushed away by going way too extreme, I apologize. I know that some of you are like, okay, Ian, too much. My sister's that way for sure. She's like, okay, you got 5 to 10 minutes kind of thing. She gives me a time limit. And I think that's fair to set boundaries. But I really need to be engaged with people who really want to figure it out. And I don't know if that makes me sound arrogant, but that's what I want. So I'm going to go and find that. You know, I was a part of Toastmasters when I was a kid, or not a kid, maybe an older teenager, 18, 19. I did some of that stuff, and that seemed pretty easy to me, quite frankly. I spent my early years in musical theater, so I'm, you know, used to standing up in front of audiences and singing and dancing and stuff like that. So that doesn't really make me nervous, nor does talking to a camera. So yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know if I choose that lane. I don't know, I'm gonna take over here. Oh, the resistance is very different on this steering wheel than it is on mine. That's interesting. Anyway, so yeah, if you know, maybe that's a call to action for some of you. Maybe one of you wants to sit down and have a debate with me, although X is a bit of an echo chamber for me, like, you know, because the algorithm feeds me kind of what I like. We can talk about anything. We can talk, I mean, I have to have an opinion on it, of course. Typically it would be something to do with technology, space, US politics, maybe a little bit. I don't have a fight. I want to have a logical debate. I really want to talk about things, and I want to talk with someone who's open to really discussing what we can try to drill down as the best facts that we know that are possible. So, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to verbalize that. I put that out there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm alone. Maybe I'm not. But that's my thing on belief systems and belief structures. Am I willing to change my own mind? I'd love to find out. Because the thing is, you can only have so many conversations with yourself. You know, it's like my dad used to say, if it's, are you talking to yourself? He'd be like, it's the only way to get an intelligent answer. But you know, you talk about an echo chamber. If you're in your own echo chamber where you just agree with yourself, I mean, like, I think that's hard. Like, I can still do that on my own. Don't get me wrong. Like, I can still go in and look at my belief systems, challenge them, and I do that. I try to do that. You know, it is painful. It's painful. But there's an ADHD strategy called body doubling, where you have just someone work next to you, and that kind of encourages you to have some accountability because there's another human like watching you or whatever. I think that's very effective for me. And so sitting with someone to hash out belief systems, I think is just the most interesting way to do that, because then you can gain new understanding with somebody else, and it's kind of like having a checksum, right? So it's like, I saw this data, what's really real? And you have two research people doing, you know, you're using AI to do all this stuff and verifying it and stuff like that. So, I mean, this particular kind of task is also much more feasible now that you have all these frontier models that are so powerful that you can do weeks of research in minutes, right? So that's super valuable to this type of exercise, and makes it plausible, right? So, I don't know, tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe you're thinking the same thing. But I do find it frustrating that, because I frankly don't, I find it frustrating because I don't know that I can name a single person that I have met yet that is willing to really sit down for hours and do this. And don't get me wrong, it's not criticism necessarily, it's just frustrating to me. People are busy. People have things going on in their lives. And like my buddy AT says, he says, you know, people have to arrive at it in their own time. And I agree with him. I think he's right. So I guess I'll leave it at that on that topic. In the meantime, I am driving a 2026 Model Y Performance, and let's change the suspension a little bit, actually. So let's go to dynamics and put my old man glasses on. Dynamics, ride and handling, standard. Can't notice the difference right away yet. Use standard ride and handling in autopilot. Oh, that's interesting. So when I was in FSD, it was in standard mode anyway. Off-road assist, auto, steering weight. I'm just gonna go into FSD. This is dumb. Why am I driving the car manually? This doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I gotta take those off. I gotta read. Deceleration, standard or reduce. Okay, that's for track. Acceleration, chill, standard, and same. Now the car's beautiful. The design is beautiful. I like the carbon fiber trim on top. That's pretty cool. And on the side of the trim, I see they've got a little pad printed logo on the door pull there. That's a smart idea. I like the steering wheel. It's very pretty. You know, I never really liked the steering wheel so much in the Legacy Y and 3. I mean, they've grown on me. I have one, and it actually feels nice in the hand. It's thick like a BMW steering wheel, which was never my favorite. But I do like the steering wheel. But this new one, in the new Model 3 and the new Model Y, beautiful steering wheel. Very attractive. Very nice hold points, hold positions for 9 and 3. Very comfortable. The trim is nice inside. I mean, it's a Model Y. What do you want? It's a beautiful car, and there's a reason it's the best-selling car in the world. It's a masterclass in execution, clearly, and a lot of people see that. Where you've got probably a 90% reduction in collisions. If you, like when I talk about that number, I'm talking about essentially, roughly 40,000 deaths a year in the United States alone. 93% roughly attributed by human error. So autonomy should be able to fix, let's call it 90% of those accidents. That's 36,000 people that get to go home. 10 times that for accidental death and dismemberment. FSD makes a difference. Like this technology really is quite meaningful. Like at 40,000 deaths a year, that's like the equivalent of a coach bus is driving off a cliff. It's over 100 people a day, every day, and we don't say anything. So the pushback on FSD, is out of fear and stuff like that. But and I think maybe Tesla has to own some of this messaging issue. Like they do send out emails and stuff like that to people who engage with the brand. And I'm not rah-rah-rahing advertising necessarily, but they know they have an awareness issue. They've said it in earnings decks, and so I have to think that they are aware of it and have a plan for it. And it's probably going to be something really interesting and cool that they'll do to address that. But the awareness issue is big, right? And so all it takes for a lot of people to sit behind the wheel of a Tesla for the first time and watching, a modern version of FSD like V14 operate, it changes everything. It changes the way you feel. It changes the way you think about transportation. It's like anything else. We fear what we do not know. And this is a big unknown. So when I take people out in the car, at first, like some of them are really nervous. They're like, I don't know if I trust it. Some people refuse to do it. They're just like, nope, no interest whatsoever. And they won't even try it. And I think that really sucks, because I think that, this is not rocket science. We know in the community that you got butts and seats, it makes a difference. People who would have never liked or never thought about, there was a video I watched recently about a guy, I think his email was titled, or his video was titled, I never wanted to like, I hate that I love this Tesla or something like that. And he's had a bunch of EVs. That was actually a pretty good video. I'll link it down below. But all it takes is to drive the car and you start to see the thought process behind the design, right? You start to see the simplicity of the engineering, parts cost reduction, part count reduction, to reduce cost, to make it accessible for more people, because the mission at the time was to advance sustainability as quickly as possible. The mission's changed a little bit now to maximum or just amazing abundance, right? But I'm just sitting here in FSD just talking, it's so funny, like this just feels normal to me because I drive this every day. I'm not really paying much attention to what FSD is doing, and it's doing that in the best possible way, because then you end up just kind of, the technology fades into the background, and that is the hallmark of real seamless technology, I think, in this case. The Model Y is truly beautiful inside. I really do like it. I think they've done a really nice job with it. I think the improvements are meaningful. I probably should take over here. I'm going to drive the car a little bit, just because, I am in a Model Y Performance, and I do want to at least test it a little bit. You can hear the motors. You can hear them like, you can hear them wind up. It's cool. It's a cool sound. I don't know if you can hear it in the microphone, but what a beautiful car. I would love to buy a Performance. I just don't drive my car anymore. Oftentimes I've thought about what I would do for my next car. Like I honestly, my default is just a Model 3 long range. And the thing is, I'm a car guy, right? I've had, close to 40 Volkswagens, like 20 GTIs, 3 Golf Rs. They've all been modified. I've had coilovers, slotted rotors, stainless lines, tuned to update, to improve the motor performance and stuff like that. And I'm a car guy. The thing is that I don't drive this car. I sit in it like a passenger, right? So just like everybody else, the comfort becomes more important. I don't want the car to crash and bang, where as a car guy, as a driver, I don't mind the crash and bang. But in a car where I'm the passenger, i.e. FSD, I actually want comfort. So when I bought my Legacy Model 3, it was a used car at the time, and the car had the 19-inch, I can't remember what the wheel is called, the 19s on it, and I actually had to negotiate to get them to flip out the 19s and put an 18 on it, because I do a lot of driving and I'm in FSD all the time, and the ride noise, the NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, is far more important to me than the performance of the car. I'll get better outright performance if I put a 19 or a 20 on that car in terms of cornering and handling. And that used to be super important to me. Like I would put Michelin Super Sports or Pilot's, what do you call it? What's the 4S that I have on my TT, my Audi TT? An incredible tire. But it only matters if I'm driving the car and pushing its limits in the corners, and that kind of performance is important to me. When I'm in FSD, the performance characteristics that I'm looking for are different. They're not performance-based, they're comfort-based. And this is such a weird place for me to be as a car guy, because never in my life could I have imagined that I would ask someone to switch off a nicer set of wheels, because they were nicer. I love the 19s. They're nicer than the 18s. But I'm like, okay, the tires wear out faster, just generally speaking. If you're looking at a higher performance tire, they'll generally wear out faster than other tire choices. You've got less sidewall, so there's not just ride comfort in terms of impact. Oh, I got to go a different way. Not just ride comfort in terms of impact, but noise, vibration, and harshness travels through a shorter sidewall more effectively, which means that if you have a taller sidewall, you've got more air and more rubber to absorb all that NVH within the driveline and stuff. And, you know, kudos to Tesla. I mean, they've got 20s and 21s on a lot of these cars, and they ride beautifully. But it doesn't mean that it won't be better with a smaller wheel and tire, right? There are trade-offs to this. There's really just no way around it. It's physics. So, anyway, kudos to the Tesla team for amazing suspension design. Like, you know, I think Marty was quite appreciative of the suspension design in the car. We'll get to that when you see the video. But they've done an amazing job with the car, and it shows. There's a reason it's the best-selling car in the world, and I'm proud to support this company. And, you know, ultimately, I would like to work for Tesla at some point. You know, I did have an opportunity to work for them in the past. I had to turn it down at the time. The timing wasn't right, but I think the time is right now. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with Tesla, because the problem is that my experience is in sales and, you know, sales training, sales marketing, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have any formal education in that, but I've got, you know, 25 years of experience with the brand. I don't mind starting as a salesperson in a retail location. That'll be fine, because I know that whatever I do at Tesla, I can have the most impact. I can have the most impact at scale at that company. But I'd also be willing to work at any one of Musk's companies. I would work at Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company, Solar City, you name it, because I understand that the philosophy for competence is the same at all these companies. Like the dream for me is to go and do meaningful work with people who are competent. You know, that's very rare. Like at Volkswagen, I had a few competent people around me who were really impressive. One in particular that I can think about has moved on to Tesla. He came from Tesla, went back to Tesla, and now he's, you know, he's higher up than we were when we worked together. And super proud of him for that. But you know, as time passes, you know, I'm doing my own thing, looking at manufacturing opportunities and things, because I think manufacturing is probably the last bastion of things that'll go away with the AI revolution. I mean, everything's going away, but I think that's the last thing. And I think learning a bit better about manufacturing will help me anyway. So that's my goal. I'm going to try to work at Tesla. How am I going to get in? I don't know yet. I know it's pretty hard to get in there, but you know, I think Tesla would be crazy not to hire me at some level. Like I have such deep passion for this company and for the mission that I'll do anything to help the mission, right? Like anything within the context of how Tesla operates. I feel like I know the company at a molecular level, and I'm just so jacked up about the things they're doing. So one day I'll work for Tesla for sure. I'm pretty confident about that. Where I end up working, what country, what division, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, we'll see. It'll just take some time. But and I actually don't even have any open applications. I'm still trying to think about what I want to do at Tesla. So at some point they're going to hire me, because at some point somebody at Tesla is going to be able to feel through videos like this who I am, the deep passion and conviction that I have for the mission and the company, and more broadly speaking, first principles thinking and challenging the status quo. I think that's really important. Maybe another episode will get into all the tough challenges that I've gone through that would be indicative of why I'd be suitable for Tesla. But until then, I've arrived back at the mall. I'm going to end this video, and maybe I'll take you outside the car and just show you the one I drove here. This is the Model 3, or the Model Y Performance that I drove. You know, at the Toronto Auto Show last year, so a little over a year ago, because the auto show just happened in February, I worked at the auto show as a representative for Tesla through the the Ontario Tesla Owners Club of Ontario, TOCO. And, you know, it's funny, through my career, I've probably worked, I don't know, 10, 15 auto shows for a couple of different brands. And that was the first time I actually had fun. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because this Model Y Performance is in black on black. And at the time when the new Model Y came out, there was no black paint option. And there was a couple that had approached me as a representative of Tesla, and they said, "You think that the car will come in black?" And I said, "I think it will come in black, just to hang out a bit." And of course, not too many months later, it came out. Looks great in black with the indirect lighting of the taillight, courtesy of Franz von Holzhausen. And you know, I mean, what car doesn't look good in black, especially if it's clean? This one's not the cleanest one, but it's a very pretty car. I do question the use of piano finish on the lower portion here. You could PPF it. Looks really nice, but I'm not sure how durable that's going to be. I guess only time will tell. So at any rate, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch up to you later. Thanks so much.
Reduce your lightning burn startup.